But now with the Biden administration's open border policies, it's opened our border to tens of millions of people from over 160 countries all over the world, and a steady flow of human and drug trafficking. Police in America are now on the front lines facing new and staggering dangers in every community all over America. I think supporting our police officers is the most important thing that we can do, especially as elected officials. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
We talk about policing and supporting police officers. I think it's very important to support our Capitol Police that were here and protected the Capitol on January the 6th. I toured the DC jail with, in fact, one other member of this committee in the majority. And when we did that, unfortunately, those prisoners, those insurrectionists, were treated like heroes. They were hugged. They were given handshakes by members of the majority, and particularly one member of this committee. Let's remember the facts. 17 of the 20 that were charged at that jail were charged with assaulting police. 6 of them had already pled guilty, yet they are being called, in some cases, heroes. They were being called hostages by folks in the majority. In fact, this right here is a reminder, these circles, of folks that actually are in the DC jail that have been called heroes, that have assaulted police, that have done nothing but essentially commit an insurrection and treason against this country. So when we talk about supporting law enforcement, sir, we talk about ensuring that we support our police officers, it's very important that we support the Capitol Police and not the 20 people that are being held and that are being coddled, supported, and uplifted by some members of the Congress, which I think is shameful, disgusting, and has no place, and quite frankly, hypocritical as well. I want to thank all of you for your service as well. I was mayor of Long Beach before I got to Congress for the last 8 years, and so I worked with our police department, obviously very closely. I'm really proud of the men and women that serve in Long Beach and police departments across the country. I also want to thank them for working in those 8 years to focus on also issues that I believe made the Long Beach Police Department focus on issues around diversity, around equity, around community policing, and other initiatives that really made, I think, our police department inclusive of the community. Now, we know that law enforcement and keeping people safe shouldn't be a partisan issue. I hope people understand that when we talk about supporting the police, we need to follow through on that support in Congress through real actions, not just partisan messaging bills. And police officers actually need the tools to do their jobs. They need training, they need technology. And of course, we need to make sure that we can hire and recruit talented people into our police departments. That also includes and means federal funding. Now, Mr. Bryant, would it support state and local law enforcement to actually defund federal support programs for community policing?
Absolutely not. Many of our agency work together within a type of ecosystem that we are relying upon one another. And so any defunding of our federal agencies will have a significant impact on our local enforcement agencies as well, as we typically have TFOs on part of those.
Thank you, sir. I'm assuming you're familiar with the COPS federal funding program as well, which, as we all know, if you ask any police department across the country, particularly those in urban large cities, they're critical for our police departments. 80% of the majority have signed on to a budget which actually eliminates and reduces funding for our COPS federal program for police departments. So I think it's really important that we keep that funding and that we support law enforcement across the country in places like Long Beach and across America. Now, Mr. Bryan, I also wanted to show you this graph because I think it's really important. As mayor, we would track data. This is data that comes from police departments from across the country. As you can see here, there was a surge of homicides by 30% to the highest level of the 90s here in 2020. And overall, we know that violent crime and homicides has been decreasing over the last few decades, even though some like to scare folks and act like somehow we are in this massive crime wave that we've never seen. We know that's just actually not true. But in 2020, when we did see a small increase, who was president in 2020?
In 2020, it was President Trump.
That's right. And so if you look at the graph of the overall crime that was decreasing, and we see the one spike that we had, it was actually during Donald Trump's presidency. And since then, crime is actually beginning to decrease. In fact, we're now reaching, again, lower levels because President Biden and other presidents and other mayors and other governors have also invested in community policing, in community safety, in park programs, and ensuring that we not just focus on the policing side, but that we're also investing in communities. And so I just want to be very, very clear about where actual homicides in the U.S. have actually gone. They're going down, and in fact, the only real increase we had was when Donald Trump was president. Just to note, when he talks about what's happening across this country as it relates to crime, he's actually wrong. To conclude, I want to submit this profiles of the January 6 inmates of the DC jail, which is an article that just outlines and lists exactly who these quote-unquote hostages, as called by some in the majority, actually are. Mr. Chairman?